It's September 6th, 2024. It's a Friday, September 6th, 2024. It's 8:14 a.m. on the east coast of Florida. I'm in Homestead, Florida, in the Redland farming area, rapidly shrinking Redland farming area due to urban sprawl from Miami. I'm south of Miami. I'm north of Key Largo. Today we're going to be getting a replacement starter from AutoZone. It was the one I could get the fastest and had a price that was competitive with Napa and Advanced Auto and Rock Auto and everybody else. And the two of these, this one is healthier, but it doesn't have the heat shield, and I don't have the bolts or the shield anyway, so this one is going back to AutoZone as a core, and it's like $40 for the core. So I'm gonna save the nut. I don't know where the other one went, but I need to buy more of these nuts. Anyway, the good news is the radiator is supposed to be delivered today by FedEx by 3 p.m. So if that's true, and I say if, I can probably have the engine running this weekend, probably. Now today I need to install this bolt on the driver's side on the left bank exhaust manifold on the back side of cylinder number 1, and then I'm going to start to install, where'd it go? Where'd it go? The air compressor, the compressor, and the bracket. This is the alternator bracket, and okay, this is the bracket that goes on the right bank on the passenger side, and the power steering pump and the bracket for the left side is in the back of the van. It's a big assembly, and then it just bolts up to and then once I get those installed on the engine, on the Powertrain Products remanufactured engine, then I can do the water pump. And then once that's on there, I'll do an assessment as to what else I need to do, and then when the radiator arrives, I'll install that, and then I will have to fabricate and plumb the transmission cooler lines, and I'm going to fabricate new ones. I have the supplies and the fittings and all that. I plan for that, and look around the engine, see what else I need to do before I attempt to start it. And I want to have everything done before I even attempt it. So besides that, other things to talk about the Astrovan. I had a Astrovan fan ask me about this little box here, and this is a safety device on the Dutch doors, and it's part number 225234441. So if you look that up online, you could probably find a replacement somewhere. But I got this from I go to salvage yards and I grab stuff that I think I might need one day for my 30-year-old Astrovan that I've owned since new, and this is one I grabbed. I'm an electronics engineer, electronics technician, electrical engineer, and I promised the guy to open this and see what's in it and see if it's repairable, but I think it's a sealed unit, so I don't think I can. So the best I can do for you is part number 225234441. one. Of course, you can go to your General Motors dealer and get the correct part number. Now, I've got a 200 amp alternator from DB Electrical, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the unit, but I don't like it because it tends to put a bit bigger load on the serpentine belt. So next time I need an alternator, and this one's fine, it feels good. Next time I need an alternator, I'll probably go back to the 105 amp that comes from the factory with the towing package. It's a 100 amp alternator output for a standard Astro van and 105 amps for the towing package. And you could get these from DB Electric. They also make marine alternators in different values, you know, 200 amp, 300 amp, 400 amp. It's crazy how much power they're getting out of modern alternators. Of course, nothing's free, so when you get the amps, you're putting a bigger load. So some people have 2 alternators on an Astro van if they got a big load for some reason, and multiple batteries, but I won't get into all of that. So I've talked about this, and the other thing I promised was on the ABS unit. I've got a spare here somewhere, and I'm going to do surgery on that one and repair the control module. Now, the ABS I have in my van has a good electric motor, but I've got it disabled until I can find time to work on the control unit. And normally, if you take the control unit, and it's hermetically sealed, if you take that control unit and you reflow the solder joints, most of the time it will start functioning again. On the 4L, on the Kelsey Hayes, that's the early version, 2WAL, 4WAL, and in the later model 325 Kelsey Hayes. And I have a Facebook group you can join if you're interested in repairing your ABS. In the early years, the 2 models of Kelsey Hayes that I told you about, after 96 or so, or maybe after 2002, I don't know, post a comment if you know, they stopped using Kelsey Hayes and it went something, and Kelsey Hayes has been bought by another company and it just doesn't exist anymore. The other thing I want to talk about is this airbag sensor. This thing either makes a bad code or it fails, and this is off my van. This is the original unit. It was giving me a code. I replaced it with a salvage yard one. The code went away, but now the code's back again. So, and these things are god-awful expensive unless they've come down in price, and I haven't priced one from Rock Auto or eBay Motors yet. So, but it'll give you a code that looks like a transmission code, and that the difference is they use that code on a 4L80E transmission, and it was showing up, and they said I had a problem with my 4L60E transmission. So me being the smarty guy, I pulled out my GM service manual and I showed the transmission shop, your scanner is wrong. And I called the scanner company and I fought with them. They would never admit that their scanner was messed up and that they needed to put out a revision, which, you know, modern scanners, they can do that. They can put out a firmware update, and you know, especially the expensive scanners like they were using at the transmission shop. There's just no excuse for those kind of mistakes. Okay, so I've talked about the safety device for the Dutch doors that will prevent you from opening the doors under certain situations. And I've talked about the airbag, also safety, that gives you a false code and should be replaced if you got a code. And probably salvage yard is the best source. So let's see, what else did I need to talk about? I put the new harmonic balancer on there yesterday, and I showed you how to install it using the correct tool. And we discussed yesterday 4-cycle engines, how they work. And So I think I've talked about everything except the how to repair your sliding door, and I'll get into that with a separate video. That's way too much to talk about in this production. That's a separate one I'll do in the future if I have time. But I essentially show you a popper and how to test it on the bench using weights, scuba diving weights, and then and a pulley, hardware store pulley, to test the popper to make sure it puts out 4 pounds push and pull. And the aftermarket poppers I think are just as good as the OEM. I bought both, and I paid through the nose for the OEM one from General Motors, and then I bought an aftermarket, I think it was Beck I'm looking for the box. It's here somewhere. Anyway, the aftermarket Amazon $7 poppers or $8 poppers are just as good, I think. And the way you prove it is, again, empirically with a test, push pull, and you know, with weights. And I tested both push and it's got a sweet spot. So the main thing with the side door is finding the adjustment. Sometimes the rods come out of adjustment and you got to bend them, little selective bending. We used to work on an old, I used to work on Model 28 teletype for the government back in the 70s until those went obsolete and were replaced with modern printers. But there was another printer used, it was made by IBM, and it was a version of an IBM Selectric typewriter, and it had bendable parts. And the guys that worked on it, they called it FDEP, or FAA did. The guys that worked on it hated it. They thought it was a mechanical monstrosity that they couldn't get to work. But like anything, any other thing electromechanical, if it's designed to work, it probably does if you know how to adjust it. Anyway, enough about FAA and FDEP. That's all history now. It's amazing how far we've come with technology in just my lifetime. It's just astonishing to me. So that said, I'm going to install these bolts, start hanging the power steering pump and air conditioning compressor, and then I'll hang the alternator, and we'll get ready for the radiator to arrive this afternoon, hopefully. And I hope it's the right one. I kind of wish I had bought it from AutoZone because it took forever. I ordered the wrong one. It was my bad. I ordered the one without the oil cooler from Rock Auto. And Rock Auto was great. It just takes so long to get parts from Rock Auto. And they're good parts. I've never had any problem with Rock Auto. It's just, if I had the time. And these will stop very soon because I just don't have the time to make these anymore. I'm out of time, and I'm hearing complaints from management that I'm taking too long. So, and I'll define management one day. But just leave it for now. I got to get another starter, get that sorted. Got to start hanging these things on the engine, get it ready to start running. And in the future, if I have time, we'll get into the weeds on the diode that fails in there, or it says it fails. Maybe alright. And this thing, if I can get into that and get into testing the poppers and the side door repairs. Those are all things I hope to do in the future, but I may not have time. Post a comment if you need help with anything. There is somebody that asked for help with a knock sensor code, but all I can say is what's in the manual. Replace the sensor, check the wiring, look for rodent damage. Okay, that's enough jawing. I got some farm work to do, and then I got to start working on the van.